Hello, everyone. My name is Primetime Moff, and I'm here with the wonderful Oddimus Prime. And whether you're watching us or you're listening to us, we welcome you to our weekly show, Transformers 84 to 24, 40 years of rolling out. A show that in the year of the brand's 40th anniversary, we're looking back and delving into the vast history of the toy line we call Transformers. Now, if you're new to the show, we'll be covering each year of the franchise in detail in its own weekly episode with some special episodes throughout the year. So please make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notifications to ensure you don't miss anything on this incredible journey. And this year we are going into the incredible 1993, and I am excited to talk about the crazy, wonderful G2. Simon, thank you for joining me as always.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm also good. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to this. It should be a neon nightmare fueled fun time.
As really is. It's a year that I didn't experience as a kid. Didn't see it. The first memory I have of it is later on, but it's a year it's a period that I have a lot of affection for. But before we do that, I want to do one bit of housekeeping. So we noticed post recording of last week's episode there was a slight echo in Simon, so you got double the Oddimus that I got. So I'm a little bit jealous. You all got a little bit more Oddimus than me. And that's never really a bad thing. So hopefully you still enjoyed it and managed to get yourself through it. And we have checked. We think we're totally fine for this week. So you'll only have
Hopefully.
the normal amount of Oddimus.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, so kick us off.
Oh, right. So G2. So this is the point where we talked last week about how the US had kind of Transformers had ended in the US. This is the point where it starts to come back. So we know that in this year, the US starts to roll out Generation 2. They get a new comic, which the G2 Marvel comic in America is one of my favorite small pieces of Transformer lore. I absolutely love it. I think I've read the G2 comics more than I've reread any comic Transformers or non. I picked it up in the Titan book releases the late 90s, and I absolutely love it. Always go back to the G2 issue 1 comic is my absolute favorite comic cover. Absolutely love it. It is been a huge part of my Transformer collecting. I think I've got multiple copies and multiple signed copies as well from Mr. Furman. So I absolutely love it. In the US, as I say, they had the G2, but in the UK, we didn't get G2 at this point. We got a continuation of G1. However, the toys, and I don't know if it was all of them, but I know a lot of them had the G2 logos on, but they were still under the Generation 1 banner. And it's quite common for people to refer to this kind of period as G1.5, just a local term for the fact that it had the logos but still had the branding of G1. But there's some absolute lovely toys in this year under the Generation 1 banner. And then there's some incredibly wacky, crazy, and beautiful coloured toys in the G2 banner. So I'm not going to talk more about the comic because I want to at some point do a G2 comic cover myself. I'm going to touch on it a little bit in my retro review for this year. So let's move on to the toys. Where do you want to start, Simon? I'll let you have a choice. Do you want to start with the UK stuff or the crazy G2 non-UK kind of things?
Let's
Do
let's
you
let's
have a
go for
preference?
the UK stuff first because it's, as you say, it's a weird how to put it. It's G2, well, G1.5 really, isn't it? We
Yeah.
don't get the full on G2 stuff until the following year, and I really do want to touch on that in a minute because I have I have things to say. Um, But yeah, I mean, we got sort of aspects of it, but they were called different things. And they, yeah. So let's go with the European stuff first. So Autobots, we had four, count them, four sublines for the Autobots.
No, it's a bit mad, isn't it?
Yes, we had the accelerators, the aquaspeeders, the lightformers, and the obliterators. Lots of good evocative language being used there. And some of these figures they did come out as figures within the G2 line. Some with slightly different names or slightly different decos, but they're effectively the same figures. What we didn't get was all of the reissue figures. But I suppose, just now thinking on it, the US hadn't had any reissues at this point. Classics didn't come to
No,
them.
no, that's a good point.
Um,
Yeah, so this is the fucking first time they got those molds brought back. And I always wonder how much at this point they were talking to each other. You know, how much conversations were really kind of been had around. Because you know yourself, this year's toys aren't going to just have been made this year. They're going to be in plan for probably a year, 2 years beforehand. So at what point did the US go, by the way, we're going to do recolors and we're going to do this Generation 2 thing? Did the UK Hasbro go, well, or European Hasbro go, well, we've already got toys, so we'll just get our toys out. You don't know, you know, and lovely to kind of know these kind of bits. I know Andy Cousin was asked about this kind of stuff, and he didn't have full recollection of it. You know, we have to remember that these kind of points where people were kind of just doing a job, but it always intrigues me how much the conversations were. You know, there was a popular rumor for a while that the branding being the G2 logos was due to licensing, but I can't really believe that because you know very quickly have licensing on it again. I think it's the more likely, my opinion has always been that um, they knew that they were going to do the G2 stuff in the UK, so actually let's put the logos on it now to kind of almost transition people into it, and it's easier to pick up um, the kind of G2 stuff. But there are some cracking toys in the G1
Absolutely.
stuff. Some really nice bits. One that has always intrigued me, and one I would like to. I don't know how to buy it, but I'd like to experience it because I've seen some beautiful pictures of it. It's Clench. Clench just looks stunning. You know, for the two, it's also a funny name, but the two big ones, Clench and Pyro, are absolutely gorgeous bots. And again, like we said last week, if you look at the what you know, if you didn't know that G2 was coming, you would just be like, these are mad neons, and it's going to go, you know, where is it going to go to? But this year has got some crazy colours in it. And again, like I said last week, I had some of these I picked up in the car boot sales. Um, Again, back into the gimmicks. You think about some of the gimmicks we see in this line, and then some other kind of going forward. You've got like the aqua speeders with their water gimmick. You know, is neon a gimmick? Is neon colours a gimmick?
No, I think that's just part of the all round culture of the time. It was all neon, extreme, and pouches was pretty much 90s. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
The stormtroopers ripping off Star Wars, is that a gimmick?
I mean, no. So
um,
yeah, so what have we got? We've got the accelerators that were just new car ones.
yeah,
Nothing particularly exciting about them. They didn't have any. Did they have
any
any?
gimmick. No, I don't think so.
No, it was just the engines became the guns. That was pretty much as exciting as their. Yeah, I think that was the gimmick. Their engines became their
Yeah.
guns. So sort of a Power Master, Target Master crossbreed without any transformation involved. And they were very much figures of the times. These were all Japanese design, weren't they? Those ones.
Mhm.
They're not Andy Cousins or anything. Um, but yeah, they're fairly standard. They're very similar. Two of the four figures are effectively the same toy. Uh, oh no,
Yeah.
there's a few differences. They look
There's
a
enough
lot
in,
like
there's enough in them. Yeah, there's
yeah,
enough in that they look
yeah.
very similar.
There's the transformation of them, especially Zap, looks really like those terrible, terrible knockoff toys you get in Poundland. The way sort of
Yes.
half of him becomes his
Yes.
arms and then his legs
Yeah.
flip over and that's it. But yeah, they are what they are. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much them. And then you had the color changing ones that they had color changing paint that changed when you had when they got wet. No, it was warm water.
Feels
It's
so
heat
90s,
sensitive
doesn't it?
more than
Yeah.
oh yeah,
It's
very much so.
such a 90s gimmick. Like how many toy
Yeah,
lines did we see started to bring water gimmicks in? And we've talked before about the Transformers having gimmicks and let's add gimmicks when, you know, Transforming's a gimmick. Like
yeah.
to this day I still go, oh, I just really need them. But they're kind of fun. You've got your colour changing. Then you've got the aqua. Is it Aqua Speeders, is that right? And then the Stormtroopers, and I think if I'm just going to just double check. Andy Cousins did the Aqua Speeders and the Stormtroopers, and I had a couple. Again, the colours. This is the point where I certainly was more intrigued to pick up toys in this era because the
Mm.
colours just were something else. I had Aqua Blast and Hydra Dread. Um, I really liked it. I always really liked the colour of Drench, and would probably have picked one up had I ever saw one, but sadly didn't. But the colours on them are just stunning. I always remember the colour of the canopy on Aqua Blast just being beautiful. That green is just very, very, very 90s. And I don't know how it would have been experiencing these toys in the 90s when everything else kind of felt like that, but going back to it late 90s and picking them up at a point where that wasn't the colorings you were kind of getting, it was really fun to experience.
Yeah, yeah, they're awesome. Again, it's not a lot. We're still in that phase where I'm not really collecting them. I'm seeing them in the shops, and a friend of mine was still getting the odd one here and there, and people I know had a few. I remember Drench was one that I played with a lot, and his the color changing gimmick that didn't always last too well, especially if you left your toys on a windowsill or something, which you never do anyway. But so it sort of ended up being permanently in the changed version. Um, but yeah, they're just they're fun. They're fun. They're stupid. They're you know I don't know if they were brought out today, would they be as popular? Would they be as fun? I don't know.
And there's as we go through these, there's figures I look and go, I can see, last week I could see them. Obviously, last week we talked about Rotorstorm and they did a Rotorstorm. I could see
Mm,
them doing a Thunder Clash. I could see them doing that. I can't see us ever getting Generation Toys version of, a Drench, a GoBot. Some of these will never see the light of day again. These are
no.
the one and done. Uh, As much as we will look at them and go, these are kind of cool. Pyro, because of his um, comic iterations, might be something we get. I know people have done kits to do the versions of Hotspot into not Hotspot Inferno into them,
Mm,
but you just can't see these having that. But again, Iron Fist. It's the comic bit that's the only thing that probably keeps these characters in the
mm.
consciousness. Other than that, you're not going to see them. Even when I think Hasbro touch on a bit of G2, they focus on the G2 versions of the originals toys, which
Yeah.
I think it's time we ditch all this European stuff and let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about some of these beautiful, beautiful repaints. I absolutely, I have such love for the G2 stuff. I love the colorings. I love the newer versions of this. I I can't speak it highly enough. Like mini bots are something that have always been one of my favorites. To then have
Okay, well,
G2 mini bots, beautiful,
yeah,
just
let's
beautiful.
let's 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 go through them. So we had for the mini bots, we had Beachcomber, Bumblebee, Hubcap, and Sea Spray. And the thing that was even more unique with them within G2 was the vac formed uh metallic
Yeah.
paint on them, which, oh my God, that looks absolutely horrendous and yet amazing. Um, it's like,
It really does.
and it's also like some of them make sense. So Bumblebee, he's gold. He's like bright, shiny, almost like Oscar trophy shininess.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Uh, and Hubcap, well, it was Hubcap, wasn't
Become
it? It wasn't Cliff
yeah,
Jumper.
Hubcap becomes red.
Yeah.
There's
So yeah,
two of them.
there's
Two of them are shiny versions of themselves. So Bumblebee and Sea Spray are just shiny versions of themselves.
yeah,
Sea Spray is gorgeous. I've saw one in hand, and I never picked it up, and I regret it because he's gorgeous. Um, Hubcap and Beachcomber are changed to colours. Beachcomber's G2 colours are again funky and beautiful and weird. The red, it's not a red, it's kind of an orangey red, and then the green, and then Hubcap going red. Always was like, why do Hubcap? Why not just make him Cliff Jumper? Like, not
yeah.
really.
It was
But
actually only when I looked at it and saw the name was Hubcap rather than Cliff Jumper that I was like, oh.
and I think, let's be honest, I would imagine if you saw that in the stores, or not in the stores, but like a stall, you think that's Cliff Jumper all day long. You're going to think that's
Yeah.
Cliff Jumper. Um,
And of course,
and then, are you going to say sorry?
I was going to say, of course, Beachcomber is almost the first ever Transformers Christmas repaint. Um, with his
It is, yeah.
with his tinsel green and red. Yeah. Anyway,
And then we've
so
got one of my favourites, which is I'm going to go into my favourite last. I'm going to leave my favourites in as last.
yeah.
The Dinobots, the Dinobot
Oh
colorings,
yes,
and with multiple color variations. It wasn't just here's one Dinobot in G2, here's triples. What's the three across? There's three releases, so you get your silvers back, or do you? Yeah, you do get your silvers back, and then you've got red. So Grimlock's blue and turquoise.
yeah,
Slag is red and green, and Snarl's red and green.
yeah,
Um, just and there's
yeah.
something about them. The blue Grimlock is always one that I love. I just think it's a gorgeous color for it.
I,
I
I
think I like
really
the
like that
green rather than
turquoise.
reds. The turquoise one
Yeah,
is, to be
yeah,
fair, it is. It's really nice.
yeah. I do associate the green more than the red in ones I've
Yeah.
seen. I don't know whether one's rarer than the other, but the green ones just look better, I think. If I was to try and track them down now, I would go for a turquoise Grimlock and green Slag and Snarl. Yeah, but I'm not going to.
Um, one of my absolute favourite top 10 of pre-Beast Wars, because it's not G1, but it's G2 toys, is the G2 Sideswipe. That
Oh
toy,
yes,
I picked that up, and I think I've talked about this before. We talked about Micromasters, and it was a cash and carry that had bought stock from another cash and carry and pile of stuff, and one of them was a G2 Sideswipe, and that was just stunning. It was the first time I'd experienced the mold, and it's part of the collection I sold when we were getting married and we needed cash, and I regret it to this day. And will buy another copy. But I want a really nice, because mine was mint, so I want a really mint one. And most times I see it, it's not as mint as I'd like it to be. But
Yeah.
the thing with the G2 stuff for the launchers, for the cars, so you had Inferno, Jazz, and Sideswipe. It was the colorings of the missiles and the launchers as well. It wasn't just the cars. Cars were gorgeous. The colors of colors of Sideswipe is out of three of them, he's the best in my opinion. I think Jazz is
Oh,
nice,
100%.
but it's not massively different. It's just different um, livery on him rather than a different colour bot. And Inferno is pretty much the same toy, so
Almost
it's not
exactly,
huge.
yeah.
Um, I don't think there was any changes to Inferno. Not that I can remember. But the G2 sideswipe is absolutely stunning. And I think the G2, the best of G2 is when they just do something kind of wacky, and sideswipe has that. And I think, to be fair, when you go into combiners, the combiners do that. The combiners are absolutely stunning. We talked about Yellow Devastator last week.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a G2 Yellow Devastator as well. But the one that I again and but I was able to pick up. Oh no, it didn't come out this year. I was going to say the Superior, but Superion's the next again year. But so it was only the only combiner this year was Constructicons then, the yellow one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But of
It
course, we
just
didn't get them until a bit later.
that's no, we didn't. But there's something about them. And then you get a new Optimus. Well, kind of new Optimus, like
Oh, well,
that Battler.
yes.
Yes
He
and no.
had. It's obviously normal G1 Optimus Prime with some flourishes, which include a voice box. That's another thing that you had in this line was sound boxes.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Decepticon sound boxes.
I think so. Yeah.
And Optimus had a sound box that plugged onto the front of his trailer, which is now in very cool black. But also,
Mm.
Robots in Disguise has thoroughly gone out the window when the side of your truck says Optimus in letters that are twice the size of a human being.
For those that are listening, you can't hear, but I still love it. I love my
Oh,
Optimus
it's
Prime.
amazing.
I absolutely just love
I
it.
actually,
I
I
always
actually
have.
don't own a G2. I don't. I
Just
need to
so
get one.
beautiful. But the bit that always intrigued me with the Optimus Prime is the logo. It's not a G2 logo.
No,
It's a G2 toy, but it's a
no.
G1 logo. It's interesting. And the sound box, mine's never. I never had the sound box. The one I picked up, it was just the cab and the trailer. Um, but the sound box is the G1 logo on it as well. And I always
Yeah,
was curious why that was. You think about what we're talking about, the fact that the G1 toys came out but had G2 labels on. Why did we have that? Don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, answer to that.
It,
Is it just I don't know, because they've printed it obviously the stickers specifically for that branding one, but you're right. Like I think G2, can you really be in disguise when you are the colours that they are? The,
well,
the two leaders, let's be honest, the two leaders,
I was going to
neither
say,
of the
let's move on
leaders
to
in
Megatron.
this, neither of the leaders
Yeah,
are hiding.
no,
What's
no.
that over
It's
there?
it's
An inconspicuous big black trailer with Optimus Prime. Don't know who that could be. On over this side, it's a massive green, crazy lime green tank. Yeah, that's just standard. I'm just going to see that at everyday streets. The in disguise bit is gone.
um,
And
it's
this
the
one
first iteration of Megatron being a tank, and in fact,
is.
oh, it's the third version of Megatron at this point because I forgot
What?
about Action Masters.
Oh
Action
yeah,
Masters,
yes, yeah.
yeah. So, but it's the first time he himself turns into a tank. And
Yeah.
look, I'm probably going to upset lots of people. I prefer Megatron being a tank. It just makes more
You're like
sense
Optimus
to me.
Prime, so
I,
shush, you're not allowed to have an opinion.
I, but no, don't get me wrong. I love G1 Megatron. I absolutely adore the original toy. It is such a fantastic role play item in the same as well as being an amazing,
Yeah.
well, not the world's greatest robot, but anyway, that's fine. But the RoboSen Megatron was announced recently, and everybody's up in arms that he turns into a tank. But on what planet will RoboSen gonna
No.
make a gun that turns into a robot? Uh, yeah, that was never going to happen. But yeah,
I don't mind the
yeah,
tank
first
thing.
tank,
I
but
really don't. I think in general sense it makes sense that he controls himself more, and he's, a tank is more impressive as a scary thing than a gun in the nicest way because
oh,
it's a
yeah, yeah,
tank.
yeah, yeah.
The G2 tank is gorgeous, and again we talked last week about the size of things at this point, like how impressively huge toys were. The Skyquake was the one we really talked about, but G2 Megatron, if you've not held it in hand, again, it's like 30 centimeters, like 12 inches.
It's
It is
enormous.
a stonking toy, and it's glorious in its colors. Absolutely glorious in its colors.
Yeah, the green is just pops. The purple just offsets it so well. He's just a glorious chunksome piece of loveliness. I absolutely love that figure.
And then we missed two important ones
Mm.
when we talk about crazy colours. So again, Starscream. So we did Starscream, and Starscream is like your jazz. Too many fancy toys conversations today. So Starscream, like jazz, is a mildly different colour. It's not horrifically, hugely different. Just a bit kind of more, probably more subtle. A wee bit of camo on it and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but then on the opposite end, like your G2 Sideswipe, you have Ramjet, who is like beautiful, crazy colours. It's like, what colour should we put a plane in? Let's have them turquoise and purple because that's where we should be going with. It's going to hide them. And I think the two of the jets came with the sound boxes. We'll talk about sound boxes later on.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
he is just beautiful. Like the black, the purple, the turquoise is just stunning colours. And again, kind of like Optimus Prime, he has Ramjet on his side. I can't remember if Starscream has. Quick check. Like you're not gonna. I mean, you're not just rocking up to an airport and you're like, there's a black, purple, and turquoise plane. No, I don't know who that is. A Starscream. I can't tell. No, I don't think it is. But it's a beautiful idea. G2 has always appealed to me in the wacky colours. We talk about how many times you hear nowadays about things getting recolored and redone. And actually,
Mm.
this is not miles away from the beginning. It's within 10 years. The way to commemorate us getting to nearly 10 years is to do this. And I think it was a clever way, if you think in a cost cutting point of view of, do Hasbro US are wanting to reinvigorate the brand, but probably don't want to spend a lot of money. So let's not spend any money on
Mm.
engineering. Yeah, okay, you're recoloring the parts, but it's not huge. We've got the G2 Megatron's only real kind of G2 one at that point. It really has a new mold. Obviously, there's more stuff that
Mm.
comes, but it was an interesting choice and a very very, very 90s choice. Very 90s choice.
Uh,
And it's good that I think that even now, Hasbro now are doing a little bit more G2 and bringing a little bit more out and kind of taking a bit of fun with it. And there's some molds that come later in G2, next week's conversation that are really nice. But this is the point where I think that the craziness of the mini vehicles having that vacuum colouring, the mentalness but beautifulness of Sideswipe, G2 Sideswipe will never not be a beautiful colour. That the black with the neon kind of yellow and green and the stickers just glorious. It is a very fun point of the franchise, and as I
mm.
say, one that I very much look back on very fondly. even though at that point I certainly wasn't collecting anything at that point. I don't think I was doing any things. I think at that point, maybe this Super NES came out about 93, maybe, I think. If I get my years right, something around those time. I was into video games and movies. I actually
I
broke my
was
back in '93 and just sat and watched, fell in love with movies. And I had never really been one for sitting in the house much before that. But through a summer where I couldn't move, just fell in love watching movies, but didn't really do toys. But I think if I had seen these in the stores at that time, I certainly would have picked up one or two of them just for the craziness of them.
just two quick things before we move on, wrap up. Just a couple of things to say about these. So it's really interesting that the previous year with the European exclusives, we had loads of figures with teeny tiny missiles that never would have been able to pass muster in the States. And then the very next year, we have the G2 stuff that have the biggest missiles ever committed to plastic. Which is and also the other thing, just to quickly mention, this is the first year that you had main scale larger vehicles, larger figures on blister cards. The jets came on blister
Oh
cards
yeah,
and the cars all
yeah.
came on blister cards rather than in boxes. So I don't know whether that was some reason for you can cram more onto a shelf that way. I'd imagine probably was that. But yeah, just an interesting thing to
The
point out.
package is beautiful. That's a good point, actually.
Oh, it's
Like I
gorgeous.
actually have to say, I think the blisters work really well. As I say, when I first, Sideswipe being my example of getting one on card, it just was like, whoa, 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 this is stunning. As much as on card it still stands and it's still oh, I'm a big fan of this era of packaging. I think it really brings to
I,
life the bots. And you're right, I hadn't thought about it actually that prior to this you would have got a sideswipe in a box, you'd have got Starscream in a box. That I wish these are the kind of ones that, as much as we've seen reissues, and I know they're now onto their kind of retro colour reissues, so I think we're kind of out the window for a chance at G2. But when we get to the future, do we get reissues of stuff, actual G2 stuff? I'd love to see it. Absolutely see it. I love picking up some of the Beast Wars stuff. We'll talk about it in the
yeah,
go, but I think it would be great to see some of these releases get a reissue.
yeah, that would be lovely. What's your bot of the year then?
It can only be G2 Sideswipe. He is by far my favourite G2 bot overall. Um, the Masterpiece version's gorgeous. The newer version's gorgeous, but that original G2 Sideswipe is stunning. He is a black Lamborghini Countach with
The
crazy
only thing
beautiful
cooler
colouring
than a
on it.
red one. Yeah.
Agree. I don't disagree in the slightest. It's just gorgeous. A point where all the crazy colours, the black Lamborghini Countach is the nicest toy in that year, in my opinion. Simon, what are you going to go with?
I'm going to shock everybody and go for G2 Beachcomber because I love Beachcomber. He's one of my absolute favorite bots to fiddle around with, and that color scheme was absolutely amazing. It's just, it's minty fresh Christmas Beachcomber, and I love it. And G2 Optimus Prime is nothing new or exciting, so I'm not going to pick that. So there we go.
Oh, it's a very good choice, a very good choice. And I think it's exciting now because we're now at the point where there's going to be more exciting toys coming back in. We've had some challenging weeks, but I think that the next couple of weeks are going to be really kicking us into it. So I'm looking forward to it. So that has been our look back at Transformers in 1992. We hope you enjoyed. We hope you maybe learned something new. And if you haven't, as we always say, just keep an eye on while you're listening. Look on like TF Wiki, look on like Transformer Land. There's loads of resources out there for you to get views of these, and then look for the toys when you're at the conventions because seeing them in person is something else. If you did enjoy this, please like, subscribe, turn on your notifications, make sure you follow us for any content, and remember that we do produce multiple extra content on a weekly basis as well, where I do Talking Robots Tuesday. Well, I'll kind of delve into what would you like to experience from the year. We'll do retro reviews. Now we're going to have some more Optimus Primes. We're going to have much more opportunities for prime time with Oddimus. Um,
a backlog at the moment.
You know. So please just check them out. And if we can say anything about this point in time, it's only going to get better. Thank you so much for listening along. We'll speak to you again in the future.
Bye.